welcome to this 5th Courage and Compassion event. I'm so happy that so many of you made it. There are some familiar faces here and some not familiar. You're all equally welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy that you took the time to be here with us today. And as I said, it's the 5th event, and we're going to have yet another fabulous, inspirational woman to talk to. I just want to say a couple of words before I introduce you to Whitney. My name, for those that don't know you, my name is Monica Adolfsson. I work as a life coach. I work one-on-one with mostly women. I also work as a Daring Way facilitator. So I have workshops, the Daring Way and Rising Strong, that are based on the research by Brené Brown. What we do in those workshops is we look at sort of the behaviors, the thoughts, the emotion that holds us back, and then we look for new choices to make and for new practices to put into play to live more authentic and wholehearted lives. And wholehearted, so Brené Brown in her research, she talks about wholeheartedness as the people that engage in their lives from a place of worthiness. And what those people, so she researches shame, vulnerability, and so on one end, and then so she looked at, okay, so what do these people that engage in their lives from a place of worthiness have in common? And she's come up with these 10 guideposts. So the people that engage in their lives from a place of worthiness, they do cultivate certain things in their lives. I'm not going to talk to you about all of them, but if you want to, I'm going to post it on my website, so you can go to my website tomorrow and check them out, all the 10. I'm just going to briefly touch on 2 of them. And so those wholehearted people, they cultivate, among other things, creativity in their lives, and play and rest in their lives. And yeah, tell us about that.
We're going to do the play.
Yeah, we're going to do all that, creativity and play. Creativity, so I'm one of those people, and it actually goes together with the research. Research shows that many of us, by the time we're 10, have lost sort of the faith in our ability to create. Somebody told us, in my case, that my cat looked like a squirrel or my squirrel looked like a cat. And I don't know, because all my animals look like cats, but I think that from then, my story was that I'm not creative, which is not the case. Creativity is so much more. Creativity can be, sure, art, and it's this beautiful here. You see the wings here? But it can also be writing, knitting, gardening, whatever it is. So the one thing that we need to do in cultivating creativity is letting go of comparison. That's the one big thing. And then play. We're going to play some more. We're going to play some. But I want to tell you a little story, and I love this story so much. I hope you'll like it too. Does anybody know what a sea squirt is? A sea squirt? No? You haven't heard about the sea squirt? You're in for something then. This is a cool little creature in the ocean. The sea squirt is, when it's little, like a baby, it looks like a tadpole. And then when it's grown, it looks more like a sponge, coral thing. And when it's little, it has this tiny little brain that when it is exploring in the ocean, it looks for nutrients. So this little sea squirt is sort of traveling the ocean, looking for nutrients, and also trying to get out of harm's way. The thing that happens with the sea squirt is that when it gets older, it becomes a couch potato. It gets stuck. It attaches itself to a rock or to the bottom of a boat or something like that. And in a wicked twist, it starts eating its own brain, because it doesn't sort of, it's not exploring anymore, so it's just monitoring wherever it's happening around it. And so this exploring little sea squirt becomes this brain-eating zombie. And it's actually funny, because I told this story to my kids a couple of years back, maybe 3 years, when they were 8 and 10. And they used that. My son, that was 8 at the time, he would say, "Oh, Mom, do you want to play?" I'm like, "Oh, I can't now because I have to." "Oh, you want to become a sea squirt?" I'm like, no, of course, we play. But it's also interesting because research shows that play People that engage in playing games, exploring, continue to learn, actually are much less prone to dementia when they grow older. And not only that, also they are less prone to heart diseases and stuff that we might think doesn't have so much to do with the brain. So creativity and play is so vital for us. And therefore, I'm so happy that we have a creative, playful Whitney Freja here with us today. Whitney is a well-known spiritual leader in the self-help movement. She has been facilitating creative workshops since 1996. That's 20 years?
21.
Woo, 21 years. When she opened the Creative Fitness Center. Don't you just love that name? The Creative Fitness Center. She lives in Oregon with her 3 teenagers who love to think creatively. Woo! Welcome, Whitney.
Well, one of my teenagers lives here now. She started Stanford yesterday.
Wow.
So I get to come back a lot for the next 4 years. So hopefully you all will become familiar faces. The first thing I have to say is if you're interested in the source of these earrings, you go to myshamanicsoul.com and Elaine can hook you up. So when I saw these on my friend, she was doing a talk. And all I wanted to know is where the earrings came from. So I just wanted to let you know anyway.
Do you also want to tell about the workshop you're having on Saturday while we are on that?
Oh, we'll do that at the end.
Oh, okay, we'll do that at the end. There you go. Okay.
They don't know they want to come yet.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit how your creative journey started. I love that you wrote about, I read this fabulous book, if it was in there that you wrote it, or on your website, that you had a big moment of revelation right after college involving Nietzsche and his quote, "Art is the proper task of life."
Yes. So I had a similar cat-squirrel experience. I was 9, and I vividly remember standing there with my mom and the art teacher, and I had just done what I knew to be this fabulous abstract acrylic painting. And the art teacher said to my mom that Whitney has a great eye for color and balance, but drawing isn't her thing. And really, that's kind of innocent-ish, but what I heard is I couldn't draw, so I clearly wasn't artistic, and I became a complete wannabe artist until I opened the art center. So anyway, so what happened, fast forward, literally, I had a good friend, Jennifer Keats, who could draw and paint anything, and I was always like, oh, I wish I could paint, but I can't. And my friend Carolyn Fraser's older sister, Zilly, was really artistic. I hovered over these people's shoulder. I was just like, I wish I had that gene, but I clearly wasn't born with it. And so I just beaded and knit long red scarves and, just kind of dabbled. And then after college, I graduated from the University of Michigan and left the next day to go sell books door to door. And in the midst of doing that craziness, was pretty sure I didn't want to keep selling books door to door. So I got this book, Zen and the Art of Making a Living. And in it, he quoted Nietzsche as saying, "Art is the proper task of life." And then the author said, "Many of you will think this has nothing to do with you." He goes, "But this book will insist throughout that unless you develop an artist mentality, you will not be able to create the life of your dreams." And he wasn't talking about painting on canvases, right? He was talking about taking responsibility for the role we play in creating our reality. And this is before quantum physics or any of this stuff is being talked about commonly. And what I was pretty sure of, 3 years out of college, knocking on doors, usually in California, that life was a heck of a lot more like a blank canvas than a multiple choice test. So it seemed like the artist mentality would be a good thing to have. And where does one go to develop one? Because in college, you had to take drawing 101, 102, painting 101, 102, and I'm like, well, I can't paint or draw. So you had to take that to get to mixed media collage, which I thought maybe, possibly, I could do, right? Or that registration deadlines would be, right when I called, and it was 13 weeks later, and I was kind of a nomad there for a while. So it just seemed really difficult to make art, right? And so reading that book, it was like hearing the voice from heaven.
this is what I want you to do.
And I was like, I'm going to open the YMCA for the right brain, where people can come and make art in order that they're more empowered to go out into the art that is their life and create the change they wanted. Boom, like that was it. And I came up with bajillions of ideas daily. So I went out and sold books again. I made like $60,000 selling books door to door, and I bought a crack house in Nashville and fixed it up, literally, crack house, and opened the doors. Still had not painted on a canvas, had not drawn anything realistically. I had gotten some oil pastels and copied a field of poppies, like an impressionist field of poppies, because I thought maybe I could handle that. And proceeded to learn along with my students from the teachers that came. And we all would have these, I called it the bug-eyed experience. Like I'd catch their eye walking up the front walk, and they'd go like this, and I'd go like this, and they'd go, guess what I did? Like I've been meaning to do it forever, and I finally did it. And we'd have this moment like, holy crap, this shit works. Like the art, it had to do with overcoming the fear at the canvas. And as they overcame the fear at the canvas, little by little, they started overcoming the fear in the art that is their life, and they take these little steps which would lead to another, and before they knew it, they were doing more of what they loved. And so that was the journey. I mean, literally opened the art center, still no art training. I still have no formal art training, but it's been 21 years now, so I guess it's been my own training.
Yeah. So how was that? Because you sort of did something that without the credentials that maybe would have stopped me doing that. That is extremely courageous, I think. So how was that process? Because I assume that there was also fears in that.
Yeah.
Because the courage and fear sort of are cohabitants, right?
Yes.
So how was that?
Well, they say fear and excitement are the same energy, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so what happened is, in Liz Gilbert's book, Big Magic, she talks about ideas being alive. Have you guys read that? So she talks about ideas being alive, and they're like circulating, looking for hosts, looking for channels to come through. And if you get the idea and don't manifest it, don't act on it, it'll leave and go find somebody else. And that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like I was given this idea. I remember crying one day to my then boyfriend, now the husband, and saying, it feels like this is happening with or without me. Like I can hop on the train or not. And even though I'm not qualified at all, I really want to be on this train. Like I want to ride this train. And that's what it felt like. And it felt like that energy of like it's on the track and it's going. And I could jump on or not. And so many synchronicities and coincidences happened, and people showed up, and I met this man that had a storage unit full of like this brightly colored wood furniture that he just furnished the whole place, and I sold for the next like 4 or 5 years. And it was just things like that over and over that led me to understand that I could choose to bring this into reality or not. And actually, Nashville at the time was kind of pre the California-New York invasion, and they were much more conservative. And I remember thinking, like, if I was in California, like, people would be breaking down the door. In Nashville, it was still very scary to go to, like, a brand new place. Because I was a drop-in art center. I was open 7 days a week for the first year until I about chucked the Thanksgiving turkey across the kitchen floor. and this was before the paint your own pottery places existed. At least in Nashville, like the drop-in art center did not exist. So it was gratefully a very strong call and felt very alive. And I just latched on like the sea squirt, but I had the opposite experience.
I love that.
I did not eat my brain.
Okay, so then you moved to Oregon. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
So opened the Art Center in '96. Published my first book in 2008. Opened wine bars in 2004 because I remembered that the wine bars got my book published. don't recommend that as a way to get your book published, but it was all this crazy story. So I had all this very invested in the Nashville community, right? And the plan was once Peter had made the money with the insurance company that we could afford to do a crazy idea that we were going to move. And we ended up, the crazy idea became buying a ranch in Oregon. And we bought it in 2007, moved in 2011. 700-acre ranch, 4,500 square foot house. We built and designed, and I picked out every tile and light fixture and I designed awesome stuff. And I lived there 9 months. And it became really obvious that I could not make this person happy. And I had to choose between kind of just giving up, I guess, or living my own life. And so I blew apart the perfect, we had these 3 blonde children and this big house, and we just moved to this small county. It's only 7,000 people. And so when 5 people move in and buy a big property and build a big house that like half the county's working on, and then I just stay there 9 months, it was not popular. It's not a popular decision. But it was the biggest liberation ever. So what I talk to people about is, that the courage to turn and open up that closet door and be brutally honest with yourself about what you really, really want. Right? Been there, done that, whatever it is. Mine was that. For other people, it's changing careers or moving or whatever, But whatever that thing is that you're afraid to admit you want, I can honestly say the worst part is anticipating making the change. And then once you're on the other side, that liberation of facing the fear, because now you're no longer living in fear. And so I've been pretty off the charts happy. I mean, I have my moments, right? But it's like, I don't have to tone this down anymore. I can really just let it out and not worry about making someone else uncomfortable. That was just my journey. He's my greatest teacher. I tell him one day you're going to be high-fiving me, but it might be in the next life.
But you also said that where you moved, it feels spiritual to you, so the nature and all that.
Right. Well, I think there was an agreement to get us back there, or at least get me back there. I don't know. But so where I live in Oregon is it's called Wallowa County. It's winding waters is what Wallowa means in the Nez Perce language, and it was the last part of the continental U.S. to be settled by the white man or woman. And it's very geographically isolated. So the main road into the county is a 20-mile canyon road that's it's the end of a road, little bitty towns. You're never just popping through, right? It's not on the way to anywhere. And the whole western border are the Eagle Cap Mountains or the Wallowa Mountains. So they're 9,800-foot peaks. They're snow-covered right now. We've got snow up there for the first time. And then the whole eastern border is Hell's Canyon Snake River. So it's like this yin and yang thing, too. If you folded it up, it's almost like the mountains would fit right in the canyon. I mean, I haven't done the math, but, it's that-ish. And so...
I like that.
Yeah, energetically... they're 2 million acres, 7,000 people, not a traffic light, an escalator, a dry cleaner. I mean, you name it. None of that. And it's the last place that ancient indigenous wisdom was alive in this North American continent, or the United States. And it is magical. It's I do events there in the summers because the winter you don't know. You're not sure you can get through. So in the summer, I do events there, and people, all I know, and I've known ever since we bought the property, is that I was just supposed to get people there, and it would activate something, because we all have indigenous wisdom inside. And so I go out, I've spent so much time, especially since I moved into my own place, I have a little more time alone. I've spent a lot of time out in nature, and I go out there intentionally to tap into that energy and receive the messages from the river or the tree or the rocks or the mountains, and it's a magical experience. So I'm so grateful.
So one thing, we go up to Kirkwoods, which is up in the Tower area, and one thing that I think is so cool is the quiet. Is that how it is? it sounds like.
Yeah,
There's like, it's almost like deafening the quiet.
Yeah, I forget. I go places, and it's not so quiet. Yeah, it is. And, they've proven, the redwood trees you guys have here, right? They've proven if you just sit, if you're feeling anxious, you just sit under a tree, right? And your body biologically will come back into balance. And that's one of the things that we're all remembering right now is the resources, the energy that's available to us just from the land, which will make Mother Earth very happy. It'll help us to take care of her a little better when we realize everything that's available. So I really believe that I was brought back to that land for a reason, and the things I teach, I'm intentionally teaching it from there, or like my latest online program, I did the videos just with my iPhone, in Australia and New Zealand and up in the Canadian Rockies and up in the mountains where I am, because I know that land is coming through. And just that is transformational. Just being aware of that nature. It makes a difference.
So you are a spiritual leader and also a coach. And facilitate workshops and have speaking engagements all over the country. Can you tell us a little bit more sort of what it is you do and what is your mission?
Well, that's evolved over the years, right? Like when I started in '96, I just wanted to paint. I just, and I had this feeling, right, that there was something more. And then what I've come to understand is that when we liberate ourselves creatively, what eventually comes alongside is a spiritual journey, because we're here to live as creators. We're not here to live as victims or at the mercy of a to-do list or comparing ourselves, keeping up, with the Joneses or whatever. We're here to create our most authentic selves, our most joyful life. Anita Moorjani wrote the book Dying to Be Me. She came out of that. She's like, your life purpose is to be you. And to be you, you're going to have to do something different than the norm. And as women, the way we were raised, everyone did the best they could. It's all fine. But that sugar and spice and everything nice and keeping everybody happy and, getting the pat on the back, that's not what it's about. So we're all in the process of liberating ourselves and taking back our feminine power, because that's what's needed to bring things back into balance. And we all have masculine, feminine, all that stuff. I love men, love women, whatever. So,
Humans.
So what I do has changed, right? The conversation. It used to be left, right brain, which I still start there. But now what I tell myself is that I get to travel around the world and activate rainbow warriors. That sounds much more fun than anything. But really, in being a spiritual leader, what it feels like is when I speak my truth, and, I'm always talking about, even in my county with people that not all have had this conversation, I'm always talking about past lives and, meditation and downloads and all that. And I feel like I'm just giving people permission, leading them to say, it's okay. Like, people might think you're weird, but really, they want to be happy like you are. Because you've discovered this infinite resource within you. And ultimately, I remember when my kids were little and I had the 2 wine bars and the art center and, co-president of the fundraising, and how do you do it? I'm like, that's what I'm so busy trying to teach you or share, How I do it is I know how to access that energy, right? And so that's how I can do it all. And I understand where to send my creative attention, and I don't send it towards things that aren't meaningful or aren't, Like I got up at 3:30 this morning and drove 3.5 hours to the Boise airport. And someone texted me like, you must be exhausted. I'm like, I'm surrounded by too many amazing people to be exhausted. It's amazing what you can do when you take away the I can'ts and I don't work that way, my mind doesn't work that way, right? Because I could have opened the doors of the art center and been like, I can't paint, I can't draw. But because I opened the doors to an art center, I couldn't really say that, right? So it's like jumping off the cliff. And I learned just sitting alone. And I would freak myself out. Like, how did I just draw that? because I just did. I took away all the I can'ts because I owned an art center, so I couldn't do that. So it's creating those opportunities, right? Declaring what you want and then just putting yourself there, not giving yourself any way out. So if it means opening an art center with no art background or whatever it is, there are easier ways, I think.
Yeah. But I love that. And that was also you creating the space for others.
Yeah. Yeah, so you asked me what I do. I create space. You know, I create, and then my workshops, I train creatively fit coaches, which Beth is doing my training, and thank goodness, because that's how I have a place to stay here, and this happened, and everything else. And I do workshops around the world, and normally, you know, there's a couple coaches there, because they're everywhere. And usually halfway through the workshop, I feel compelled to say to them, like, you see, I'm not even really teaching anything. Because I just created this space where I get people excited to see what comes out of the canvas. You know, we talk about painting energy and symbols and intentions into the canvas, and they get so excited about the layers, and they understand they're going to paint over and over that, you know, partway through or after an hour or so, they don't even want to know how I would do it. Even if they've never painted before. I've had people who've never painted before paint wings this big. They never ask me anything. I just create the space where they feel free, and they're not afraid to make a mistake, and they just try this, try that, not I paint over it. And that experience, everything that you do ripples out. So you can't experience that fearlessness and self-compassion at the canvas and not have it show up in other areas of your life. So that's why I get excited. It's not to like get you to paint a painting. It's what you're going to create as a result in the rest of your life. That is what gets me super jazzed.
We can tell.
Because I want you to be happy. Yeah, I know.
It's great. Hey, so you have already touched on this, but I wanted to ask this sort of. I look at myself. I took up a brush 3 years ago after having not touched one for 40 years, more or less, right? And I did this painting, and it felt like it was such a relief for me. But I mean, I had lived with this limiting belief of me not being creative for so long. So, okay, you're talking about creating space, but do you have any other sort of advice, or should we say, for us with those limiting beliefs about not being creative?
So let's talk neuroscience. We can take it there, right? So you have a very strong neural connection that says I'm not creative, right? Or you used to.
Yeah.
Just 5 seconds ago she had that. Busted away. So anyway, so we have these strong connections. We have this, you know, anytime someone mentions painting or drawing, oh, I'm not creative. Like that's, you know, if you've watched What the Bleep, right? Those great animations. So that train of thought is very tightly connected. And so understanding that the mind responds like a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So as many times as you've said, I'm not creative or I can't paint, when you replace that with, but I'd like to try. Up until now, I've believed that I couldn't paint, but I'm going to try to paint. And understanding that every little creative mark you make, even if it's with a ballpoint pen, that stimulates a new neural connection. Well, I could do this, I could do that. My first book, The Artist Within, is just exercises that you do in a journal with ballpoint pens or art supplies you could get at the grocery store to get you creatively fit. It's The Artist Within, a guide to becoming creatively fit. And it's black and white because I had a real publisher and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Printing costs and everything. And what I wanted people to understand is to become creative, to feel creative, you just do something creative every day, every other day, regularly. And eventually you start to feel creative because that's how your brain works, right? And so at the canvas, the way I start every single painting is just doodling, spilling. I could do it with my eyes closed. I used to have my kids when they were toddlers do first layers. I stencil, I write with Sharpies, right? You just put it down on the canvas. You drip, there's a spray bottle. You're not trying to paint anything. It's the easiest part. And most people get stuck. I don't know what to paint. I don't know how to do. I'm like, you know how to get started. Let me show you. And so just doing that, I've watched people, like I've been at the Book Expo in New York with a canvas and a paintbrush and people walking by. I'm like, hey, will you help me paint on this painting? And they're like, they take the paintbrush and, and they touch the paintbrush to the canvas, and no lie, they're like, oh. It's like a Meg Ryan moment. This feels so good. I'm like, I know, right? And like, that was all it took. Decades of telling themselves they couldn't paint. It's really interesting. So, and of course, that's what I do, is take people over that. And there's tons of YouTube videos on my YouTube channel and things like that. But really, it's understanding, okay, I'm afraid to create because I grew up in a story that the people who were artistic and creative made pretty things that maybe someday someone would buy. And my stuff didn't inspire that confidence in my parents or my art teacher. And so I was, sometimes politely, sometimes not, encouraged to find other ways of expression, right? And so that's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from some truth that I'm not creative. I'm coming from old programming. This is Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. We're just telling ourselves a story. So just understanding that's a story. I have a story that I'm not creative. How's that working for you? Like, I mean, do you want to feel creative? I mean, some people I meet, they're not engaged, right? And that's fine. Like, I'm not going to try and convince them. But if you'd like to feel creative, which creativity, you were listing off, creativity is problem solving. Creativity is what got you here. It's what inspired Monica to create this. This is her art. Everything
that's a
you
beautiful
do
art.
is creative. I know, look at you guys. You're creating energy every single second with your words, with your look, with your smile, right? I've learned this. Like, it's very fun to just shoot people with energy that you realize you're creating energy. And you know you've been around people that create energy that doesn't feel really good, right? Someone can walk into a room and it's like, what's going on here, you know? That's what you're creating. So the canvas just makes it visible. And while we allow ourselves to think about what we want, so think about something you'd like to experience in the next 12 months, something you've always wanted to do or see or go. And then remember, at least for me, it's like when I got this awareness, I'm like, usually the next thing I think is, yeah, but I don't have enough money or enough time, or I'm not qualified, or my hair is too curly or too short, or, you know, my voice is too high. and we start imagining, thinking about all the things why, all the reasons why we can't do it, and all the risks, or, you know, if I do that, and instead of using your imagination, which you're using to worry about things not working, why don't we use that to imagine it working? You never go to the canvas to paint something, or just imagine yourself, maybe someday I might go to the canvas, Whitney. Okay, would you ever go to the canvas intentionally to paint something that you don't want? That you find sad or depressing or hopeless, or you would never do that. Like if I had a painting here of like, I mean, use your imagination, something that you would find really repulsive. You wouldn't even still be in this room. Be like, Monica, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm out of here. Yeah. Right? This is alive.
Yeah.
And what we think and what we speak is alive. So I'm on a mission to help us realize how powerfully creative we are, and to think the thoughts we want to come into our reality, rather than think the things we don't. It doesn't mean we don't understand the things that need our creative attention, right? We get inspired by things that maybe don't seem to be going properly, right? But then the call is to take that and use your creative energy for good. Like, use your creative energy to send towards what we want to see, rather than filling up the bucket with more of all the things that are going wrong. So the canvas just makes that visible. And when I come up to someone at the canvas, hey, how's it going? You know, checking in. We're painting angel wings or whatever. Like, oh, well, it's too dark, it's too muddy, I can't, it's not working, it's too fat or too thin, or the wings are too... And like, all I can do, I mean, feel that energetically, all I can do is, okay, what do you want? I want them to be lighter, I want them to be more fun, I want there to look more like feathers, I want it to be bigger, I want it to be smaller. Okay, I can help you do that. That's the same thing with whatever the universe, whatever that is for you. When we go through the list, if this isn't working, it's not working, I can't do this, all I can say is, okay. The question is, what do you want? I want this. Okay, let's create that. Right? So at the canvas, for me, this is where we practice. This is where we practice being courageous. You want to be more courageous? Slap some paint on there. And just when you think it's looking pretty, ask yourself, what's the scariest thing I could do to that? I've taken black paint and gone just to create the energy of courage. Or if you want to be more compassionate to yourself, which if you don't know it, you do. Let's practice it at the canvas. So let's start painting and then observe. Oh, I'm looking over, she's really good at that, I'm not as good at that, or I can never do it, I can never mix colors, I'm not good at, oh, I'm not being very compassionate. Okay, you're doing a really good job observing all the things that you want to learn, right? Practice being compassionate at the canvas. Practice letting go of perfectionism at the canvas. Practice making mistakes at the canvas. It's safe. It's actually really, really safe. I had a woman who's very successful, powerful lawyer in Nashville. She came to art class. It wasn't my art class. It was another amazing woman, Cindy Wunsch. She's leaving art class and she looks at me and she's like, art class, this tonight is the first time I've realized that it's okay to make a mistake. I mean, holy smokes. Priceless, right? And I've Skyped with her just like in the last 12 months or something. She's got this whole red room in her house covered in her paintings. And she's like giddy excited, you know? So she got to practice making mistakes at the canvas. Now, it is not okay as a lawyer. My dad was a lawyer. You cannot make mistakes as a lawyer. But as a human being, I mean, right? Poor thing. So practice making mistakes here. Whatever you want to create in your life, you create it at the canvas first. It's so much easier. And then it ripples out. So my book, each chapter is a different energy. Joy, peace, clarity, spaciousness, freedom, self-love. Because I want people to realize that behind everything is a feeling. We want to feel. And so you can look up like, okay, I want to feel clarity. Oh, I need clarity. So you start painting clarity, and I have prompts, and there's an animal totem, and all of these things. And you create it at the canvas. And in the process of creating the symbols of clarity, the arrow, you attract thoughts. This is not logical. Intuitive, creative. You attract thoughts that will help you to create clarity. You learn as you paint. You raise your vibration, you connect to a higher wisdom, because you've just had to kind of step over the lower wisdom, which is not good, it's all contrast, that says, I'm not good at this, I can't even draw a straight line. How many of you have said that? I've heard it a million times. There are no straight lines, we live on a round planet. Okay, so don't say that again. So you go to the canvas, and you have already overcome the fear. You've already devoted and committed to spending time doing something that isn't productive or isn't going to earn you money. I mean, maybe it will, you know, but you're doing it just to be and to create and to express. And when you do that, you become present. In the present moment, you have no baggage. You have no future to worry about. And from that place, you receive. And it can feel like random thoughts. You might just think they're random thoughts at first, and that's okay. You're being given guidance. It's like tuning into a different radio station. When I got divorced and I moved into the rental, I mean, and I felt guilty, so you know, my shaman friend said, no, you're supposed to need to work. I'm like, okay, because I could take, you know, like, I'm leaving a lot on the table. But and I was freaking out. And I went to the canvas. Okay, none of you here have been to my house. It's covered. The walls are covered with paintings, and everyone has a story. Everyone was a conversation. I have a Buddha painting program because I started painting Buddha because he made me feel so calm and peaceful. And I'm like, God, I really like painting Buddhas. I painted lots of Buddhas. I gotta sell some Buddhas. I gotta film this and, you know, make it part of the business. So I have Buddhas everywhere. I have lotus flowers because the muck, you know, you rise from the muck. I have my creative goddess. I have my winged woman. I have, you know, my deer and my fox, who are two of my big animal totems. And I mean, every single painting is energy. And sometimes I forget, and like the appliance guy will walk into my house and he's like, do you paint? Yeah. It's because I needed that. Because if I didn't create, I worried. If I didn't create, I worried that I was screwing up my kids. So it's so cool she's going to Stanford because right? I screwed her up that bad. When I painted, I understood. I knew why I was doing what I was doing. Right? And so I needed it. I mean, sometimes I'd like crawl to the canvas. And every time, you know, it's, you have to experience it for yourself. I mean, I know you can feel my conviction, but it really is amazing. And really the challenge, here's a great challenge, just in case any of you get really stressed or worried or like angry or super upset about something, remember that. Remember I said, okay, Whitney said the next time I got really worried to go and, like, if you have crayons or markers or, you know, paint anything, just create clay, you know, make some dough and start sculpting it, whatever, and just watch yourself. Magazines, pull out magazines and just go through. I did this once. I walked into the kitchen and I had just come from second wine bar where the business partners were accusing me of stealing, and it just got really ugly. And I was on the brink of tears for like 3 weeks. And I walked into the kitchen and I had these 3 little blonde kids like, you know, all over the place, and Mom, and in that moment, I remember standing by the back door and looking down the hallway to the kitchen with all this energy, and I'm like, wow, okay. I could walk in that room and be Mommy Dearest or Mary Poppins. Left brain, right brain, which do I choose? And so I told them, even though I was like late and all this, I'm like, you guys, Mommy needs 5 minutes to look at pretty pictures. And I grabbed some magazines and I just sat there and I just tore out anything that made me go, ooh. And 5 minutes later, I was like, I get to cook dinner for these 3 precious children, and all of that was gone. It was all gone. You know, like, that's what I want people to understand, right? Is that we have access to this practice, this personal painting practice that can nurture you in these really challenging times, can bring you the insight from your highest self that is exactly what you need. You know, that can help you clarify what I want to create in my life. And just, you don't have to say it to anybody, you can just paint it onto the canvas. You can paint it, I paint stuff in big black letters. One of my favorite things to paint these days is because I said so, right? And you just paint it on the canvas and then you cover it up and then it hangs in your space. It changes the energetic landscape of your space. So, I don't remember which question I was answering.
It's fine. It's all good. Let's talk about this book.
Sure.
It is so sparkly and beautiful and colorful.
I know.
I'm not going to mess up your little...
That's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it is super beautiful and so much good stuff in there.
So it's here.
It is.
It's all,
Super.
I was reading parts of it because Monica asked me about reading a part, and so I'm like, maybe I should see what I want to read tonight. And I read it and I'm like, I wrote that? Like, it's all, you know, kind of an out-of-body experience.
But how
It's
did
good
this
stuff.
How did this come to be?
Well, one of the things that I coach people on is if you want to do something, you kind of let people know you're doing it and then do it. So in 2015, I launched the Super Soul Flow online program for 2015, and it was, my goal was to write my book. I'm like, if I create an online program for 12 months, that's 12 chapters, I have to write the book. And so I wrote 12 of the 13 chapters in here, and I told them, you're going to help me write this book. And created the painting videos and all that. And then it was going to be published in 2016, because that was my 20-year anniversary. So it was published in 2017, which I guess that's a whole other story, but it's the beginning of a 9-year cycle, so it's better to start a project at the beginning. So I took that content and edited it and created this with the publisher that is amazing. And it's really, the seed statement actually came from the Law of Attraction book, which I didn't read until just recently, because when it came out, I had just opened an art center, a wine bar, gotten a book deal, and I was like, I don't want to manifest anything else. I need to catch up. So I finally read the book, which is an amazing book, and it's all about creating. And I asked my pendulum, handy tool, to guide me to the seed statement that would just inform this book. And what it gave me was, I am the sole creator of my experience. And so, and a series of other meditations and things, but what I wanted to create was literally a buffet of energy that you could choose to create and give you symbols. There's an animal totem for each energy. There's symbols and step-by-step painting images all in the book to give you an opportunity to create the energy you want. So there's an awesome chapter on abundance. I got 3 ways you can create abundance right now that are completely downloaded and really good. And then you get to create the white buffalo, for example, is a symbol of abundance. So when we're feeling lack or scarcity, or look at your bank account or whatever, it's like, oh, it's hard to attract abundance when you're bathing yourself in scarcity, right? And there's abundance everywhere. There's an abundance of hair things on my head, or grass or leaves or different kinds of trees in California. There's abundance everywhere. So it's like, connect to the abundance that you can feel and believe in, and create that at the canvas, and then attract more abundance, right? So the book is layers and layers and layers of experience, and I took the teaching that I teach at the canvas, which I don't talk about painting during most of the workshops. I talk about creating and what do we want to create, and there's a chapter in there on spaciousness, which is about time. So time is actually really creative. And in ancient Greece, they had 2 words for time: chronos, which is linear time, which is like what got me here today, here and on the right plane and all of that. And then there's chronos time, or aha time. And that's the time that we get to play with. So the whole chapter is teaching these ideas, new ideas and stories around time, and then inviting you to get creative with time. And there's some really practical tips, because it's got to work. Like, it's got to help you on a day-to-day basis. So that's really exciting, because so many we love to talk about how little time we have. So guess what? We don't have a lot of time. If you talk about, somehow I have tons of time. Right? There's a lot of different little tricks you can do for that. So those are the chapters. So the writing is about these ideas and new stories, kind of new paradigm stories. And then the painting is just where you get to go to symbolically create the energy.
You were talking about abundance, so let me just follow up on that. You write that all the abundance you desire is within you. Would you say that abundance then equals with enough? Like, I am enough, I have enough, and also the link with the gratitude.
Right. So, and again, I lived this, right? Like, I mean, I didn't have to work, or, I mean, literally, like the back patio of this house, you guys, like the flagstones and the looking out over ponds and rolling hills, and amazing, gorgeous house, plenty of money in the bank, residual income coming every month, like Stanford will not be a problem to pay for the husband, right? And he does not have abundance, right? It's a feeling, it's an energy, and I'm not going to elude myself to believe any longer. We all know this. We all were raised knowing this, but we still hold on to it, that something outside of myself is going to make me feel, when I have this, then I'll be happy. We know that's not the case, right? But we were never taught how to generate it and connect to it and create it from within. And what I've grown to understand is that energetically, emotionally, on a feeling level, there is nothing that is not available to you right now. You can choose to feel however you want to feel right now. I mean, you can play with that a little bit. I mean, we can summon up some really scary things. We can summon up some really sad things, just like we can summon up some really joyful or grateful things. And so when you realize that, like, wow, I'm free, no matter what my bank account says, I'm free to create whatever feeling I want. I can feel free. I can feel self-love. I can feel compassion. I can feel joy. I just have to look for it. I just have to send my attention that way. That's where the abundance comes from. Then it doesn't matter. Like I told myself a long time ago with this, because I went from not having to make any money, right? Like I didn't help pay the bills or anything. As long as that's the basic gist. To needing to make money, right? And so it would get me a little twitchy sometimes. And then what I just kept getting is I'm like, if I just keep my vibration high and in my joy and share that, everything's going to be okay. Right? And so that's where my focus has been for the last 5 years. And how to do that is what I put in here. That's it, pretty good.
That is. You talked a little bit about presence, and there is right. How much of what is available to us if we stay aware of the present moment? Sort of, one of your chapters is about this topic, about presence. Mm-hmm. So, can you tell us a little bit more? I feel like when I work with my clients, and even in my own life, there's so much available in the presence.
Yeah. Yeah. So so self-awareness is really huge, right? You guys get that. And you remember back when you weren't self-aware? I mean, we all remember, right? It feels like, anyway, a long time ago maybe. Like teenagers, for example, right? They have no idea. They're reacting and all of this. So anyway, so self-awareness. So understanding from a place of really quite an objective place. That we literally, so I'm going to go back to left-right brain. Your left hemisphere is physiologically programmed to take care of your past and future. Past and future oriented. Your right brain is completely present. Now, the mind is infinitely intricate, and we have, the more creative you are, and women have a larger corpus callosum that connects the hemispheres, right? It's a total dance between the two. And your left brain is fear-based, your right brain is love-based. So, when you're feeling stressed or worried, from that self-awareness point, am I in my left brain or right brain? Okay, I'm in my left brain. My left brain only knows past and future. It only knows fear. It's literally physiologically programmed to resist all change. So if I'm sitting here just thinking about this new idea, and then I get worried and stressed. What's going on here, really? Well, I'm getting excited, and then my left brain's kicking in, giving me all these really good logical reasons why you shouldn't do it, because it will tell you not to go into the unknown no matter what, if you ask it. The right brain is completely present, which means it doesn't have any awareness of your baggage, or the art teacher, or the whomever, right? It doesn't worry about the future. So you can see the left brain is very valuable, right? But it's not meant to steer the ship. So what we were taught is, we were all taught, like, oh, the stroke of insight and the aha and Thomas Edison and, you know, all of this. And then what we were really taught was, when you get that idea, you ask your left brain, can I do it? Your left brain's like, does it involve change? Does it involve the unknown? Does it involve risk? Could you make a mistake? Could you look silly? No. Why are you asking me? Like, that's all I can say. And then we're like, okay, I can't do it. Yeah. What's meant to happen is we're meant to understand that the only time you get that feeling of excitement and joy and anticipation and the hairs on your arms stand up and the goosebumps and all that, that is the sign that your soul is saying, go there. You're getting warmer. Follow that energy. Then you go to your left brain and you're like, I got a good one for you. I don't know how we're going to do it, but you got to make it happen. Okay, that's what it's meant to do. We just had it a little backwards. So that's where most people get stuck, right? So the present moment is the only place to access the call, the inspiration. And I love neuroscience. I don't know if any of you are like neuroscientists. Okay, because I'd love to talk to you or bring you up here. But they've, you know, gamma brainwaves. Have you heard of gamma brainwaves? So we have alpha, beta, theta, delta. The neuroscientists didn't like gamma brainwaves for a long time. They kind of blocked them out because instead of showing up as this nice little blip on the screen, sorry, I was going to make a comment. It was like this, you know, cacophony of light or sound or whatever, MRI, whatever it is. What they discovered is that right before a stroke of insight, aha, the breakthrough, there's a spike in gamma brainwaves. Gamma brainwaves are different because instead of just one part of your neocortex, the surface of your brain lighting up, the whole thing lights up. Right? So you know that insight, it kind of comes randomly, and then it makes so much sense because it connects things from your past, but it's also this brand new idea. And if you're already in your right brain, present, you have a better chance of getting to a gamma brainwave moment. So like Thomas Edison used to, when he was trying to figure stuff out, right, like he did, he would, and I think he was a workaholic, so he was always tired. So he could hold, he got these 2 metal weights, and he'd lie down on, you know, he probably had 2 chairs pushed together, and he lay down because he knew that when he fell asleep, he would drop the weights and wake up, and in that moment, he'd look for the aha. Mm. I can make this work for you, right? Like when I've got a lot going on business-wise, I've got the computer at one side of the home studio / kitchen island, stove, dining room. I've got the computer on one side, and I've got the canvas on the other. And I'm working away, you know, on Fusionsoft and campaigns, and when I get like, I want to vomit, I go over to the canvas. You know, I'm like, I got to figure out what to say this 3rd email, and go paint. Use it, right? Get your downloads. So much more fun than figuring it out, right?
I have so many more questions for you, but we don't have time because I also want these, what did you call it, my art?
Your art.
Yeah.
Different colors on your palette.
To also be able to ask you some questions, but first I want you, because you all have a little bookmark.
Yes.
So do you want to tell them what's going on, or
yes.
what will be going on soon?
Yes.
Yes.
So I can just do it right now, though?
Yes, do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We make the rules up as we go.
Yeah.
I want to gift you a yantra. Does anyone want a yantra? Does anyone know what a yantra is?
But I want one.
Okay. Yeah. Who doesn't want a yantra? So a yantra is a visual mantra. It's a symbol. And it's used in the same way. The intention is to use it for the same reason that you would use a mantra, which is to clear the mind and kind of raise the vibration to attract the higher consciousness. You guys know that word. And so what's fascinating about yantras, and the last chapter in my book is the personal symbol chapter. So what I realized listening to the law of attraction, well, listening and reading, and I do all those things, is that words have baggage, right? Like as soon as we say money or abundance or health or body or love, it's like we get all this like cacophony of past experiences and oh no, I haven't had that up till now, or blah blah blah, whatever. Symbols, however, when I give you a symbol, which this is something I do, prescribe symbols to people, when I give you a symbol to attach to this thing that you want to experience in your life, the symbol itself has no baggage. So you use the yantra, like it'll become very fluent for you, but the traditional manner, right, you go to meditate and you just imagine the symbol coming to mind. And in the book, it's full of them, like you'll see. I mean, I don't have enough for all of you, but whoever can, I'm not taking any books home, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, so the symbol is such that it has meant this thing. It's held this energy forever. So when we meditate on the symbol, we're like bathing ourselves in the energy of the symbol. And it shows up differently, right? So for example, an animal that I've worked with a lot is the owl. So an animal totem can be a yantra. And I painted owls for 2 years straight, right up until 2011, fall 2011. And literally, I couldn't, for the first year, I just like, I'm going through my owl phase. I had no idea about symbols, none of this that I'm talking about I had any idea about. And there are people on Facebook still all around the world that whenever they see an owl, they think of me and they send me stuff and tag me and things, because I was so, I couldn't, even when I tried to paint something other than an owl, I couldn't. It was just like, why would anyone paint anything but an owl? And then it dawned on me one day through a series of events, kind of soul collage-y, like maybe there's a reason I'm painting owls. Look up the symbolism. So then I understood, for me, it was about illuminating that which we keep in the dark. Owls are great guides out of your underworld experience. So the owl, I can go and meditate on the owl. And the one day I had this very profound experience was right after someone had tagged me on Facebook with this like Target purple sparkly Christmas tree topper owl. And it was really cute. And I was like, I gotta get one, which I haven't. And so I sat down and I was meditating and the Christmas tree topper came to mind. You don't even have to do this intentionally. You just start tuning into symbols. And all of a sudden it was like hearing the owl. Like, yes, I can be purple and sparkly and cute, and I can be a fierce predator. Strong, and they're that quiet huntress energy. And it was like, and you can be cute and sparkly and purple, and you can be fierce, strong huntress. And I was like, okay, yes, I can. It just showed, that was the first time the owl showed up that way, right? So this symbol I want to give you to draw, and we're not going to do an art show afterwards, it'll be a very simple symbol to draw, is one that is my personal symbol for this year. You'll laugh when I say it, because, anyway, no coincidences. And it is a symbol that I want to give you to help you create a lightness of being. And a symbol that just by imagining it, bringing it to mind, it just like helps you just let go of dense and heavy and murky energy, thoughts, ideas. Does that sound like a good anyone? So the symbol is a feather. Okay? Yeah. Right? So, okay. So if you want me to guide you, so you have a marker and you have that little bookmark. Okay. And I want you to draw a feather. So you can start by just drawing a line down the long way, right? So if your bookmark's like
Like
this,
this.
how do you make a rectangle with your hands? Anyway, do it the long way. Just draw a line. It can maybe not totally touch the bottom or the top, so just draw a line in the middle there. It can not be a straight line. I think it'd be kind of a curvy line or a straight line. Absolutely. Please. Good.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, so just if you're feeling nervous about drawing a feather, just draw a line and then make the top part to kind of like a top of a shallow triangle, and then just kind of wiggle it down to a point. And you've got a feather. And when you go home, you could add more color or paint or do the other side or magazine collage or whatever you want. But I want you to work with this feather and message me, or it's easy to find me. Let me know how it's working for you, because what I found with this symbol is when I'm feeling that I don't have time, how is this going to work? I just think feather. You'll get good at this. Feather. And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, lightness of being. That's right, rise above. Gotta worry. An infinite being does not worry about these heavy, dense, low vibration things. It's like wafting it away, right? Like the shamans use their feather wands to clean your energy. It's just gonna give you a little bath. And have you heard of the Egyptian goddess Maat? M-A-A-T. So she was like at the threshold to the underworld, right? So when you died, transition from your physical reality, the story is that she would weigh your heart against a feather. And if your heart was lighter than a feather, you could pass into the afterlife. And I've been to Egypt way back in '91 and had amazing experiences there. So I'm familiar with this myth, and I understand her story, or whatever it is, it's symbolic. And I understand it's symbolic, and I understand, and I still, my knee-jerk reaction is like, of course a heart is going to weigh more than a feather. Like, and just this year, it's like, I got it. It's that lightness of being. Did you live with the lightness of being? Then you get to pass into the afterlife. And that got me really excited. And so this year, that has been my symbol. I have a symbol for every year. And the best way to figure out your symbol is just to receive it. So when it came to me, I'm like, oh, it's December. I got to start receiving my symbol. And literally, I was with a friend. I'm like, do you have your symbol yet? I got to remember my symbol. As I was painting feathers, like literally real feathers, I'm sitting there painting feathers with feathers in my hair. Like I've been wearing feathers in my hair. And all of a sudden, it was like, doom, feather. And it's just so funny. The universe just has to hit you over the head sometimes. Like I'm painting feathers, I'm wearing feathers. Gee, do you think? So I've worked with this symbol extensively, and I highly recommend it. And it is loaded with the energy of just that lightness of being. It's a good way to be.
Are you done with your feathers? Yeah.
Done.
Downish. We just have about 5 to 10 minutes. I wanted to open the floor to you guys to ask Whitney anything that you would like to ask her.
You can also ask me if you have, and you could test me. You don't even have to really tell me, because it's not me. It'll come through. But if you have, like, okay, Whitney, I really want to create change here in my life, this area of my life, right? Or can you give me a symbol that will help me feel more courageous or feel stronger, more confident, or anything like that. So you can ask me that too, and I can give you a personal yantra.
I'll ask a question.
Okay, thank you.
So when like your husband, right? Like you can divorce him because you couldn't make him happy or change that situation with him. But what if it was somebody else, like your children, and you want to make a change in them, and you can't leave them? What can you do to help them see the change if they're so stuck and they can't,
So in my opinion, it's the be the change thing. So you can't make anyone, I mean, when they're really little, like I used to have conversations with my kids way before the conversation was even relevant, but I'm like, I'm just planting the seed, so because you guys aren't attached to this. But you can't make anyone do anything, right? So I understand what you're saying. You see people you love doing things, behaving or thinking a way, and you're like, that's not going to work, right? Here's how to do it. But if they're not willing to receive it, you can't. The best thing you can do is model it and be it. And trust that they're learning their lessons and to respect their journey and their soul's journey and whatever it is they're here to learn. And we all know we've had challenges that we would not wish on our greatest enemy, or we would never want our children. We don't want our children to suffer or any of those things. And that's how we learn. So the best thing is just to be whatever it is you want them to absorb and trust that that they'll get there because you modeled it. So, yeah. So, I mean, does that, because you can't, and you know, Law of Attraction has a great excerpt where a man said, the example was, you know, he saw someone fishing inappropriately. I mean, that's the example in the book, right? And he's like, you're believing, you're operating from a place of scarcity, that there's not enough room in the universe for someone to do this or be this way, right? And so let them be. You can't vibrate for somebody else. Give them space. And sometimes by giving them space, right, they're not pushing against, and they'll come to it quicker, sooner, faster when you back off. So there's a lot of trust involved there, right? But the best advice I have is just to look at it as an opportunity for you to learn, or as a mirror. I'm like, okay, how can I be this even more, right? And I mean, I tell my son, he's my youngest, is his only plan is to play in the NBA. He's starting to open up to perhaps the European League. And he very well, I mean, he's super passionate about basketball, right? And I've had multiple conversations with him about, like, I wish you would find some other hobbies, activities, other things that made you happy that, like, you can only do in Wallowa County because it's such a unique place. Because when you have all your eggs in one basket, you know, if that basket goes away, then you don't really have anything else. And that's just a fact. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I don't really want to do anything else. I'm like, okay, well, you'll experience, you'll learn that at some point, you'll get it, and you'll be fine. And then I tell the husband, because he gets really anxious about that, I'm like, he chose this lesson. He very clearly has been one-track mind since he was like 5. That's his lesson to learn. He's going to learn that. We could tell him very logically all the reasons why he should diversify his fund portfolio. But I can't force him, Go fishing! Learn a tagline! That's not going to work. So I just keep making it a bit. I do lots of different things, right? So,
Yes, Kathy?
So you talked about kind of over the past 20 years, and there's been a huge change technologically in our lives with our children, with our spouses, with ourselves, with technology. So what advice do you have, what learnings have you had over the years with not being absorbed in using all that time, that abundant time on a computer, and maybe using it in other ways, or maybe using a computer with an art app?
Well, there's so many good conversations around that. So one, I'm going to try and bullet point it because this is a big thing, because I'm actually really not interested in hearing, I'm kind of tired of hearing, like, kids are on the phone so much and they're short of time, like all the reasons. We know why really good stories why it's not beneficial, right? And it's kind of a fact, like it's here. It's kind of like rock and roll used to be the devil's, whatever. Like it's kind of here to stay. So I would choose to create a new story around it, right? And I think the more we tell our kids, you're going to have short attention spans and you're not going to be able to do this and that because you're at your phones all the time. Well, like, is that what we want them to grow up and experience? So then the second thing is the same thing. Like, taking breaks, like, them seeing you not be at the computer or at your phone all the time, right? Because that's the first thing, that'd be the change deal. And then the more fun conversation around this is that technology and the exponential growth in technology that we've all observed, like so blatantly, is symbolic of what's available to us on a level of consciousness and energy and metaphysical progress. And so technology has clearly shown us that, like, sky's the limit and anything's possible, and it's just going to keep changing and accelerating, and it's exponential, right? And then on an emotional, energetic, consciousness, metaphysical level, most of humanity is still like operating on version 1.0, maybe 2.0, where we've got technology at 11.0, we're down here hanging out 3.0, right? So the trick would be, as a human race, what are all the ways we could match our technological advancement with our emotional, spiritual, energetic consciousness advancement? And the internet, as an example, is this energy made visible. It's the spider web that is back from the myths. Like, it is the interconnectedness of our world made visible. And it's given voice to the people, a lot of women, that did not have voices before, or ways to earn a living. I wouldn't even want to live in Wallowa County without access to Amazon. We don't have any stores. I mean some, but not. Like, I go travel and I'm like, God, you can buy anything here. So technology is very much a part of our meant to guide us. And the tremendous level of communication and ways of expression and ways of communicating and ideas is just symbolic of all the different ways we can do that ourselves. So I choose to see it as like a good sign of what's available to us, and I'm conscious of not being on my phone 24/7. And my kids, they do the same thing, and then the one at Stanford, I mean, she is smart. She took a break for a couple weeks. She's like, I deleted all of the social media apps off my phone. And she's like, it feels really good. That's why you're going to Stanford. That just came up. That came up. So again, it's that creating space. So whatever it is you feel like is wrong with the world. So here's a great quote from I can't remember. Anyway, it might be Eckhart Tolle, someone like that. So whatever you feel the world is withholding from you, you're withholding from the world. So just, that's all I need. So that kind of loosely touches it, right? So it's like, if you're afraid of presence, like, be more present. If you're afraid of lack of authentic connection, then be authentic connection. Just be that which you want more of, and then let other people live their journeys.
So, unfortunately, we need to end now because we need to be out of here by 9. But I wanted to, since you are out traveling, I was thinking flowers wouldn't be the thing for you. So I just want to say thank you so much. I'm going to go around your thing for your inspiration and your wisdom.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you so much.